as you said that you love Jaipur and you wanted to be in Jaipur and do this event in person. I'm really sorry
Yeah,
we
next
couldn't
time,
do it.
next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Class of 22.
Absolutely. The fantastic thing here is that we are also joined in by Mr. Arpit Agarwal, sir, who is the director of JCSA Foundation. Or just like Pradeep, Dada, and you have built NetMeds, it's Arpit Agarwal, sir, and Amit Agarwal, sir, who has built this 21-year-old academic institute, which has over 10,000 plus students and 15,000 plus alumni. So I'm telling you, this screen and this spotlight right now here is quite heavy. All right. So before I begin with a formal introduction, I would request Arpit sir to say in a few words.
Thank you, Tarun. Thank you very much. Hi, Bruce. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, so you mentioned class of 22, but then we'll trouble you in the class of 21 only because the would last for 1 year, and we'll make sure that in next 1 year, we'll grab you and bring down to the campus. And I'm sure you would also agree that the real learning lies in the classroom. You know, when you talk to people, that's where the real learning is. That's where, we are able to transform our energies and those good vibes. So we'll be really looking forward to welcome you on the campus. But yes, for the sake of safety of the students, we are doing it online. So just want to thank you and profound thanks to you that and extend a very warm welcome on behalf of all the freshmen who have joined this call today and on behalf of the entire leadership team of the JCRC Foundation. Tarun was, I was talking with Tarun other day, and then he mentioned about your profile and NetMeds. So I said that I won't be missing out on this session for anything in the world.
Thank you so much. That is very kind.
Read through your profile and the way that you came down to the country to establish your own call centers, and you did well, and then you get in touch with Mr. Pradeep, and then history, as they say. And Bruce, I must tell you, this NetMeds has become a household name now. The way, because of your communication strategies, this has become a household name, with a million customer base. We all understand that's a large number. So I with my own personal experience. So back then, 6-7 years back, we used to go to those, dingy pharmacy shops and talk to that gentleman and, to explain them about the prescriptions and get the medicines done. And then there was no choice. We were not even aware if there are generic medicines available. There's another salt which is available, whether the medicine is expired or not, the kind of money they are charging, is it worth or not? But given this disruption online, retail medicine, NetMeds had bring in, I tell you, this has changed the entire spectrum of retail medicine. So just wanted to thank you for this huge disruption, and I can easily foresee there are other players who are trying to fit into your shoes. So you have created a huge opportunity for other entrepreneurs to chip in. I don't know how many of them would become successful and become a unicorn like NetMeds and would become a household name. But then you would certainly have the first movers advantage. And NetMeds has this has registered to us like that old name that we have. And the fact remains that your roots are from Rajasthan. I was going through the profile of Mr. Pradeep, and I realized that his forefathers belong to Rajasthan, Jodhpur, in a small town, Falodi. So then, it is obligatory on your part that you must visit Rajasthan here and talk to these young entrepreneurs and, budding entrepreneurs rather. We have a huge ecosystem of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And, I'll tell that story in my talk today, but, realize, and I'm going to make sure that these kids realize, this guy was their age. He was 18. He left Falodi with 2 brothers and came to Chennai and apprenticed for another shop owner at the age of these kids. And that move, that brave, bold step to come to the great big city of Chennai, today, 117 years later, is still bearing fruit.
Absolutely. That's what amazes all of us. And Bruce, I tell you what is more important is he did it 117 years ago. That was not the time when even it is right to even step out from your house. leaving aside the whole city and your family. So, Pradeep's grandfather, they were all great men, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Bruce,
Yeah.
we're all ears to hear your story and how you created NetMeds, and we look forward to welcome you on the campus. And I'm all
Great.
to hear, learn from your session, and let's catch up sometime and try and build
Cool.
together. Thank
Very
you.
cool.
Once
Thank you.
again, a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arpit sir, and thank you so much, Bruce. All right. So before we begin, so firstly, I don't want to miss out on the time that we have. I'll do a quick introduction about Bruce to the freshmen. And guys, please keep your ears open, and whenever you find something enlightening, please note it down, because this session is filled with learning and enlightenment. All right. So once again, welcome to Mr. Bruce Schwack, who is the co-founder and director of communication of online pharmacy NetMeds. He has been building businesses and creating jobs in India since 2000, when he was active in pioneering in building nascent entrepreneurial BPOs and contact centers across the country. He has built over more than 50 centers throughout the country of many of India's most successful brands. He partnered with the founder and CEO of NetMeds, Mr. Pradeep Dada, in the year 2003, and together they built a global marketing and a logistic company, which provided marketing and communication support for some of the biggest European and US brands. An avid golfer, a fitness enthusiast, and a person who stays question from your interview where you were speaking power of ideas. So one of the first question is, how does this US guy who is residing in Mylapore is helping to create one of the most disruptive companies in India through NetMeds, India Ki Pharmacy? Bruce, please, it's all over to you now. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, all of the students, the freshmen who are joining us today, and who I am lucky to have an opportunity to speak to, and hopefully to motivate and inspire. For sure, it lets me drift back to my days of entering as a freshman at the University of Florida. And for me, it was my first time away from home. And even though the university was only 4-hour drive or 350 miles away from my home, I think everybody who's listening can relate. If you've grown up in a home with your family and suddenly you're going somewhere else for the very first time, you're going to live somewhere else. You're going to wake up in a home different from your parents. It just makes me think back to that experience. And it's really, for every one of you, it's a huge step into adulthood and maturity. And while that is, that's as frightening as it is exciting. And you're giving me this wonderful opportunity to think back to those moments. I'll start by saying that my talk is kind of very general about how I got here, the steps along the way, and in the telling, I'll try to kind of impart a lesson each time. A situation impacted me in a way that taught me something that I held on to, and I'll try to give that to you guys. And here is one of the things. Oh, hang on, battery. Let me shift this over to where I can get a charger in here. There we go. So anyway, I want to say too that although NetMeds, the company that I'm so happy and proud to be a part of, is a huge technological disruption. My talk is not going to be very technical, and one of the reasons is I'll tell you a little story. In 2016 we received the NDTV Startup of the Year award, and in accepting the award, as one of my comments, I said, I am lucky that I am surrounded by people that are so smart that most of the time I have no idea what they're talking about, because I am the kind of general communications guy, and I'm surrounded by brilliant technological innovators and thinkers and deep divers. And that's what I think I'm getting a chance to talk to today. So I guess one of the first lessons, and this is really one that kind of springboards right off of the session you just had with I guess it was Mr. Girish, the motivator, the guy who was taking you guys through the guided meditation. So I'll tell you a little story that actually happened here. My office is in Express Chambers. It's an office building that's attached to Express Avenue Mall. And as I came to the office one day, the elevator door opened. It started at B1 parking level. When it opened, it had a few people already on it. It was kind of, pre-COVID. And as I got on the elevator, a stranger in the elevator said to me, well, you're whistling. You must be very happy today. And I said, well, yes, I am whistling and I am very happy. And there were, as I say, a few people. So he had an audience and said, well, may I ask why you're so happy today? And I said, yeah, I can tell you why. Because I woke up. And that seemed like a really great thing that happened right off the bat. And as kind of trite and cliche as it sounds, that gratitude of being able to open your eyes and to take a breath and to gaze around and just be part of all this wonder is really the way that every day begins for me. And I think that it's sort of a personal choice. You can choose that. Of course, I was lucky enough to be raised by a mother that was walking around the house doing housework and singing all the time, and a dad who talked to every stranger he ever passed by in the street. So it was kind of influenced by my upbringing. But at the same time, I have just always, made a choice to believe and to live by the rule that, whatever happening, it's not that bad. If the worst that could ever happen happens, I'm not going to know about it because it's going to be the day I don't wake up. So the day I do wake up, let's enjoy it. And you also start thinking about the concept of, am I whistling because things are going great? Or are things going great because I'm whistling? So that's kind of like, the first lesson. Your attitude is so important. And especially, you guys you're starting out. You're in an ultra competitive field. You are surrounded by brilliant people. Some of you listening today are feeling that you're not the most brilliant. There's more brilliant people than you. What am I doing here? But I can tell every one of you that you'll find your way. As the guru said, who was taking you through the meditation before I was listening, he said, you will have the power to make all the right choices and the right decisions. And yes, that's partially true, but I also think it's important at this point in your life to just kind of let it flow. I mean, to work hard at whatever you choose, but it's really difficult to believe at this moment in your young life that this is your solid chosen path and that you'll never vary from it. And I'll give you another little lesson along the way. And I think this is part of the whole educational mindset too today. You guys are in an engineering school and you are doing what has become, one of the most critical pillars of our entire commercial society. And that's the ability to write the code that powers transactions and powers marketing. But I want you to keep one thing in mind. Kids now are learning to code at, 5 years old, 6 years old. What is going to happen is that the actual coding part of engineering is not going to have the super premium that it has today, because more and more people are going to become adept at it. So what is going to become really important, I believe, is human empathy. And it's really critical that you broaden your learning base today. And along with your, rigid academia that's engineering focused, make sure you're throwing lots of liberal arts into the mix, and lots of humanities and lots of literature, so that your thinking is broad, and that what you are endeavoring to do is for the betterment of society. And, it's not a cliche. We need to do good and do well. It's really the driving hope for all of our future, is that we take all of this brilliance that we're all gathering together, these, young people that are so bright and so driven, and make them all know that, for sure, we're all on a mission to do good, certainly to make enough money so that our families can live well and they can get educated and we can support our families. But at the same time, that the world's going to do well. We're sort of at an imperiled pivot point here, where things have got to change for the better. And this is, the people I'm talking to are the generation that can do it. And I'll remind you too, when I was your age, 18, 19, the music of the day was all about save the environment and give peace a chance. And over the course of the last 50 years, we have really screwed that up. So don't be like us. Take these beautiful ideals that you hold in your young hearts today and follow through with them. It's time. It's the time when you can do that. So
Bruce,
okay.
Just to add one thing, this is such a fantastic learning. So other day, it was the inauguration ceremony of Parichay', and we were sitting with one of the most celebrated filmmaker of India, Mr. Subhash Ghai. He besides talking about the importance of EQ in comparison to IQ, he said that you always should focus more on your emotional quotient skills, and IQ will be catching up. He also said that the generation of now is 20 years ahead of what used to be earlier. So a guy who is 20 right now mentally is 40. So it absolutely makes complete sense. So thank you for enlightening us with this. So yes.
And again too, they're going to have the power to do the right things. And the right things are going to be the things that are right, not just for the economy, the things that are right for the economy and the environment and the social community. And again, it's kind of a not pure capitalist trend, but to understand, and modern capitalists are understanding, everybody needs to share in the wealth. Everybody needs to enjoy prosperity, not just the upper layer, and not just the successful entrepreneurs, but everybody all the way down the line. And that includes, a fair living wage and, vested positions, so that people believe that whatever they're working to build, they're going to be part of. And I think that's the way we are going to go forward as people. And I'm on the, tail end of it looking back, but I really am hopeful about what I see. And again, here at NetMeds, and even before NetMeds, all my time in India, I've just had such a great opportunity to interact with brilliant people whose minds are in the right place, and so are their hearts.
That's wonderful. All right. So Bruce, everyone in the room here is excited and waiting to listen from your transition journey. What were you doing before 2000? And when you came in the year 2000 to India, how did in 2015 NetMeds happen, and where are we headed now?
So I have always been somebody who was a good salesman, but being a good salesman is sort of a, it's kind of a pigeonhole description. What I've really been is somebody who's good at taking concepts and packaging them and presenting them in a way that was palatable. Now, the term salesman is kind of a two-edged term. Some people think of a salesman, he's just a salesman. But on the other hand, nothing in this world, nothing happens until something gets sold. That's something my father explained to me a long time ago. And that, everybody's going to buy something today. Everybody's going to buy a number of things today. Their purchasing, their exchange of value for something they need, it's what moves the entire economy forward. So anyway, I've always been a good salesman, and I've always been proud of that. And back in the US in the late 90s, I was running call centers, the kind of call centers that, have people on phones and they're banging out calls and selling all kinds of stuff. And it's happening today right here. I mean, today on my Indian mobile, I'll get 7 to 10 telemarketing calls. Half of them will be in Hindi, half will be in English, but I'll get them. So anyway, I was running these big telemarketing centers, and I was running them for a friend of mine who had actually bought them. He had purchased the centers. And he asked me, he knew I had a telecom background and I was, good at sales and communications. So he said, get in there and overlook these operations for me and see if you can, see if I've made a good deal. Am I ever going to make any money in these things? So I jumped wholeheartedly into the call center business and started, observing what was going on. And I went back after 6 months and I reported to him. Number one thing is this call center business, the business of paying somebody to be on the phone and make calls, whether it's outbound sales or it's customer service, that's a grind. And I don't really see it as a lucrative business with any kind of big exit for you. However, there's some technology in there that makes all of this happen. It's called predictive dialing software. It happens to be very valuable. And the big companies, AT&T and Lucid Technologies, these big companies are selling this software for huge license fees. It's commanding $2,000 US a license, and you own it. Your guys have cobbled together some software that duplicates this kind of predictive dialing software. And that's the value of these businesses that you've bought, not the business itself, but the software. It has a value. And if you want to fund this, I can take that software and I can brand it, package it, and start selling it in competition with these giant guys. Now, this was 1998, and I think it was before the term pivot was being generally used and bantered about, but it was a pivot. It was like the first pivot that I had ever experienced or envisioned. And so the guy said, he was a really high-rolling entrepreneur who had made a fortune in South Africa in Tanzanite and hard timber. He was a big-time trader, wheeler dealer, and he said, okay, what do you need? I told him the money I needed. I said, here's the amount of money I need. And I invented a brand that I called TrueDial. Now, as I said before, the stuff that you would buy from AT&T or from, Lucid Technologies was commanding $2,000 a license. Now I had mine and I created a beautiful package and, innovation is often imitation. And I had seen what these big guys were doing, and I was able to tweak it, repackage it, and, non-plagiarize it. And I put it all together. And then I did something that, again, this is one of the lessons I like to impart. This lesson is, don't be afraid to toot your own horn. And I started doing something really interesting. In all of these call center forums where people talk about best practices and best software and all this stuff, I started recommending myself under different aliases and would say, well, Bruce Schwack says the best way to do it is blah, blah, blah. And we have found that TrueDial software is really superior and at a reduced cost. And I kept quoting myself, and it started catching on, and people started quoting me, quoting myself. And next thing you know, I got a lead. Now, and again, too, this story I'm about to tell you is, I use the term fascinating a lot in describing my own stories because they are fascinating. It's like I look back and think, did that actually happen? So I get a lead. Now, remember, I live in Florida, right? So Florida is where I live is Chennai. And I get a lead, but the lead is from Toronto, which is the equivalent of Delhi, even further north. So to follow this lead, I've got to fly for, 3.5 hours. And I go to the lead's business. And the guy's name, my first lead was Joe Stocco. And Joe has told me through our various communications that he is going to buy 48 of my TrueDial licenses. That's 96,000 US dollars. This is the year 1999. And that is a big sale. It's going to be my first sale ever. So I fly up there and I go to his office, and he's got a bunch of guys, telemarketers, and they're sitting throughout the office, and each one of them's got the equivalent of a single phone, a phone, like a telephone, the old fashioned phone. You pick up the receiver and you dial. And we start to talk in his office, and he says, the first thing out of his mouth, now, before we get any further, I got to tell you, I don't have any money. I said, oh, geez.
A salesperson's nightmare.
Buddy, I have just flown here. I convinced my partner to give me a budget to come and make this sale. And you're telling me you don't have any money? Well, Jesus Christ, take me to the airport. So he shakes his head and he takes me to the airport. Now, listen to this. We are sitting in the airport waiting for my flight back to Florida. And Joe Stocco says, I feel terrible, but everybody's in really bad shape. The town I'm from, they just closed the nickel mine, put 5,000 people out of work. I said, really? Where's that town? He said, oh, it's in Thunder Bay. I said, wow. Do you know anybody in Thunder Bay? He said, well, yeah, I'm the mayor of Thunder Bay. I said, you're the mayor of Thunder Bay? And they just lost 5,000 jobs? Let's go open a call center in Thunder Bay. So Joe Stocco and I drove from Toronto 14 hours to Thunder Bay.
Wow.
And we got the manager, Sharon Hassio. I can't believe I still remember her name. Sharon Hassio was the manager of Thunder Bay Telecom, the equivalent of BSNL for a community that size.
Okay.
We convinced her to open a 100-seat call center in Thunder Bay. My first 100 seats at $2,000 a license, plus I brokered all of the hardware. Now I have a 100-seat call center of TrueDial software. All of the BS that I have told everybody on all these call center forums is now true. I really am in the business. And it worked out great. And it spread across Canada. I wound up building 12 centers all across Canada, each time with Bell Canada. Bell Canada would put up all the money to put the entrepreneur in business because they knew that a 100-seat call center is going to generate 1 million minutes of long distance talk time every month. And back then, before VoIP, 1 million minutes of hard copper talk time was very valuable and really great for the telecom company.
Mhm.
So, fascinating story number one. I've built all these call centers. Now I am in Vancouver. Now, Vancouver is on the opposite side of the country from Toronto. I'm building my 12th call center, one in Nanaimo and one in Victoria, for a couple of sharp young guys named Growth Experts. And what's really amazing, Growth Experts, one of the partners was a guy named Greg Kular, an Indian who is still in the business. So anyway, I'm sitting in the call center in Vancouver. We're just wrapping it up. I'm getting ready to open the place up and start them dialing. And by the way, the reason the deal was so attractive to entrepreneurs is if you bought my call center software, the day you opened, you were campaigning. I'd give you AT&T wireless. I would give you satellite dish. I would give you MasterCard. You were campaigning from the day you bought the software. So anyway, we're in Vancouver. I'm getting ready to open that center. And I have to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and as I pick up a magazine, I sit down, I start reading the magazine, and I say, Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric, has just moved his customer service to India. And I said, India? Now, I had heard of India, but again, for most Americans in the year 2000, India is just, I mean, it's just so exotic and so remote. You just can't even imagine that it's, really a place. But now I start to do, and understand this is a great little lesson too for all of the students embarking on careers. Understand a term I call labor arbitrage. Remember when I was running that call center in Florida? So everybody who sat down and put on a headset in Florida, I would pay them $32 an hour, right? Now, I took that same business and I moved it to Canada. It went across a border into another country. $32 became $12.
Oh, wow.
So now I've just reduced my labor cost, the number one cost in a telemarketing operation. I've reduced it by 60%. Guess what happens when you take that same piece of business and you move it from Canada to India?
Yeah.
That rate goes from $12 to, in 2000, it was $4 US. So I start to think India is definitely going to be the next call center destination in the world. So I go back to Fort Lauderdale and I tell this entrepreneur who has now become my partner, I said, listen, I just read the most fascinating thing. It's incredible. This business is heading for India. I'm going to India. It's the next boom. And he said, really, reeling me back into reality, yeah, good plan, except for one problem. As far as I know, you don't know anybody in India. I said, yeah, maybe now I don't. Give me some time. Now, again, you want to talk about crazy things for a person to do that no sane person would ever do. I went to Orlando, Florida for the world's biggest call center show, where all of the companies who sell this software are showing all their wares. What am I looking for? I'm looking for an Indian who's looking for call center software. Sure enough, after wandering the hall for about a day, I spot a guy. I know he's an Indian, and he's paying attention. He's paying attention to a guy from Concerto. Davox is the company. And the Davox salesman was pitching him and telling him all the feature benefits. And then that salesman made the biggest mistake of his career when he turned to me and said, sir, I see you have joined us. May I ask, what business are you in? I said, well, it's funny you ask, because I do exactly what you do. I sell the same software, but people who buy my software, I give them campaigns. And this little Indian guy, his name was Mukesh Patel. Mukesh turned to me and he said, is that right, bro? I said, yeah, you buy my stuff, I'll have you campaigning the day you open. He said, let's get out of here. He and I, Mukesh Patel and I, walked out of that call center show, walked into a coffee shop, and scratched out a deal where he would buy 100 TrueDial licenses to be used anywhere in India for 2,000 USD. And along with that, he would get the right to represent TrueDial in India. Long story short, we built that center, that 100-seat center, and then we built 50 more. I built 50 centers with that little guy. He passed away too soon. But he and I built 50 call centers. And along that way, after I had completed about 50 of them from, in everywhere. I was contacted actually by Pradeep Dada. He came to Florida and he said, hey, I heard about you and what you do. And I think I want to do that in Chennai. So he brought me to Chennai, and one of the again, funny little stories I like to tell, at the time when I got here in Chennai, for the first time, by now it was 2001. And he had a big family estate, and there was like a shed, and underneath the shed, there were a bunch of milk cows. And I remember calling my friends back in the States and said, you won't believe this. This place is like a gorgeous modern mansion, but their milk cows are parked outside. And they actually go out in the morning, get fresh milk. Well, today, each cow has been replaced by a Rolls Royce, a Bentley, an Audi, a Mercedes. There's no more cows. Just beautiful exotic cars. So anyway, after coming to Chennai, meeting with Pradeep, I said, the truth is, right now, I think we're kind of at capacity for call centers. But what we can do now is we ought to really focus on bringing business from India to these call centers that I've built here. So he and I formed a partnership, and that partnership evolved into a global marketing company. And in about 2015, actually 2014, 100 years after his grandfather had started Dada and Company, almost 100 years to the date, Pradeep said, I've got a crazy idea. I think we're going to do online pharmacy. So we took our experience in global marketing and fulfillment and logistics and launched NetMeds. And in 2015, NetMeds became a reality. So, and again, too, that also answers the question of how and why a crazy American would live here. My first trip to India, I was put up at the Leela in Mumbai, and it was crazy. The lobby in the Leela would be filled with groups of entrepreneurs waiting to talk to me. And, I'd sit down, I'd make the pitch. I need this, I need that. I'll be back here in a couple of weeks. If you're ready to do the deal, I'm going to Delhi. When I get back from Delhi, make sure you've got a bank draft for this much and that much and this much. So, interestingly, huh?
No,
Question?
not you. So sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So anyway, that time, the first 3 weeks in Mumbai was crazy in terms of business, but it was also just daunting in terms of that first Westerner experience dealing with, the density of people and the traffic and the challenges of India. And in 2000, if you would have ever asked me, well, would you like to live here? I would say, you're out of your mind. And when I got back to America after 3 weeks in India, I just really kissed the ground. But then in 2008, the business that Pradeep and I had built here was growing and really doing well. And he said, hey, listen, I think what you should do why don't you come and work with me for a month and then go back home for a month? And that 1 month became 3 months, and it became 6 months, and now I don't even remember where I lived in the United States. And this is my home. You know, I live here with a girlfriend and 4 dogs, and this is where I plan to stay. So that kind of answers the question, because when people say where you're from, and I say America, they say, well, that's backwards. We all want to live in America. What do you want to live here?
Fantastic. All right. So Bruce, I'm also keeping a tab on the time, all right? Because I do understand that people in your position have to be on time every time, and I'm sure every hour and every minute of your counts, all right? So before we move further with this,
but this time doesn't count as work. This is pure pleasure. You know, people ask me sometimes. I'll interrupt you for a minute. They say, well, you know, how long are you going to work? I mean, you don't really have to work anymore. I say, well, listen, I'm really not working now. You know, on the way to work, I passed by 3 people with buckets of mud on their head, and they were walking up a hill. They're working. I'm communicating with brilliant people. So anyway, go ahead.
Thank you so very much. This is a brilliant perspective. To all the students who are listening here, I'm sure you must have taken up cognizance of the fact as to what Bruce considers as work and what he considers pleasure. And when you mix both work and pleasure together, you have Bruce Schwack. So thank you so very much. I love this. All right. So now, before we move to the last part of the session, I would request you to please give our these new students who are the same age of 18 to 19 years, a 3-piece advice as to what they should do. Couple of things in the college and keep their head high, and which can help them to gain a better mental stability. I would say, because mental health.
Yeah, well, here's what, and that's really the greatest point of all. You hit on a point that's so important to me, and that's the mental health aspect. And I can put it in one little mantra, and you can all remember this: say, so what, often.
Okay.
So what?
What? Often.
Because whatever you think is burdening you today, I can give you 100 reasons why it really means nothing. So it's like perspective. And like I said before, when the worst thing really happens, you're not going to know about it, because it will be the worst thing. And there's only one terrible worst thing. And again, we don't even know if that's terrible. That remains to be seen. But in terms of this mortal life on this earth, it either continues or it ends. And as long as it's continuing, again, maybe trite, maybe cliche, but where there's life, there's hope. Life is it's just so magnificent. And there is not a single moment to waste on regret, sadness, feeling blue, second guessing decisions you make. They're all going to work out. This is one of the examples I like to give young men who I counsel sometime. You're going to meet a girl. You're going to love her so deeply. She's going to leave you, break your heart. And one day, you're not going to remember her name. So, again, perspective. Life is long, life is sweet, but these momentary roadblocks, stumbling blocks, setbacks, they are but momentary. And as long as you are breathing and your heart is beating, you have the choice to smile and say, oh, so what?
So what?
So that's what I say. Say, so what?
So what?
So
fantastic. I don't know. I don't even think that it could be a much more apt end to this session. So what?
Cool.
It comes so naturally. So what? So now I have a big event planned on 28th of November. I have called in some 20 jury members, and I was worried. Until now, I was worried. Will they be turning up? But now, so what?
So
If they
what?
don't turn up. Yeah, that is the perfect mantra. So everyone out here, please do say, so what?
So
More
what?
and more of. So what? Let's do it. Thank you so very much, Bruce. Okay.
Okay, wait. I have
Yeah,
time
yeah.
for one last little story.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it has
absolutely.
a show and tell element. Now,
Oh,
check
wow.
this out. Now,
Oh, wow. Dhoni.
now,
Wow.
listen to the story. See the picture in my hand?
Yes.
Here's the story.
Mhm.
Back in 2008, I was invited to an IPL after party by the guy who, back at the time, Guru owned the Chennai Super Kings. He was a buddy. He invited me to the after party. So I go to the after party. There's only one person sitting at the bar. It was too early. All the other players were getting dressed. This one player is sitting there. I walk over to the guy and I said, hey, I just got this new camera. And back then in 2008, you were actually still using cameras. I said, it's got this feature. You can actually see the selfie in the front. Let's take a picture. I snapped a picture of me and him. And then I said, my name's Bruce. What's your name?
Oh,
And he said, MS Dhoni. I said, oh, God, you're the captain. You're famous. I'm a stupid American. So then fast forward 7 years later, we hire him as our brand representative.
Brand ambassador.
I walked into the photo shoot with my first picture of him in my hand and said,
wow.
Do you remember that?
Remember.
He said, yeah, IPL after party. So anyway, life is a great big circle. So that's it.
See the one wherein Karishma falls back and wants
Cute,
Karina to catch. Yeah, it's super cute. And Karina says very
Cute.
cutely, trust karna hai, to Netflix pe karo. It is a simple one-liner communication that creates an impact. So
Yeah.
Brilliant job you guys are doing, creating impact and helping people. Okay, so on this note, I would request Paranchu to please present a token of appreciation to Bruce. Paranchu, are you there? Do just one quick moment. Paranchu, Ria, Mohak, anyone from the team?
Yes, Tarun, we are here only.
Yeah. Paranchu requests you to please present token of appreciation to Bruce. And Bruce, let me tell you, this was really pleasure having you. So this is a small token of gratitude from our side. So a big thanks to you for joining in and enlightening us with your, what do you say, a funny, funful and your momentous journey. A big thanks to you. And now,
Thank you.
Whenever in doubt, whenever in trouble, the only mantra with me is, so what?
So what?
So what? All right, awesome. Thank you so very much for the amazing session. Thank you so very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Call me again. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Take care.
Tarun, next section will be moderated by Priyanka Shukla ma'am.
Priyanka Shukla ma'am, yeah. Okay, hi guys. I guess you had fun and you learned something. All right, I can see happy faces. Good.
I'm here, Pranchu. Tarun, I'm here.
Fantastic,
So meanwhile, but then
fantastic.
I think meanwhile we have, do we have the guest here already?
I would not know. Sachin, Pranchu would know.
Sorry, ma'am. Vikas sir has joined?
That's what I'm asking.
No, ma'am. I don't think so. I'm unable to find him.
No worries.
Meanwhile, Tarun is here to fill in the gap. I'm sure he would have a lot of stories.
I'm just dropping a message. I'm just dropping a message to Vikas.
Tarun, over to you.
Yeah, just give me one quick second.
How did you like the session, students? I'm like, you have a lot of options to react with the reactions tab. If at all you are not able to unmute yourself, so you can still, react. How did you like the session? Yeah. So great.
Fantastic. All right. So guys, just filling in the gaps right now. Okay. We have with us the next guest. Okay. Who is again exceptional, a wonderful guest, just like we had Bruce. His name is Mr. Vikas Wadhwan. All right. He's the group CFO of Housing, Prop Tiger, and Makan. And I'm sure you would have heard these names before. So in this 45 or 50 minutes of talk, Priyanka Shukla ma'am here would be trying to gauge or absorb the max amount of learnings, okay, we can have from Mr. Vikas and push it towards you. So what you all have to do is be open and acceptable towards newer learnings and newer perspective. Because it's only newer learnings and perspective that will take you ahead in life. It's just like यार जो हमको आता है वो तो हमको आता ही है, जो हमको आता है वो हम भूलेंगे तो कभी है नहीं. Like for example, a plus b the whole square. I really don't know मैंने कब उसको यूज किया था, या वो पाइथागोरस में a square plus b square मेरे को नहीं पता मैंने कब यूज किया था उसको, बट वो याद है तो याद है. नाउ इज द पॉइंट टाइम की अब मैं कुछ नया सीखूं और कुछ नया उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करूं. ऑलराइट, सो जस्ट बी very very attentive and have a mind full of listening. All right. Okay, ma'am, over to you. I'm just getting in touch with Vikas. All right.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, we have Vikas sir with us. Sir, can you please turn on your video? I can just see your hand raised.
Hand is there. Hi, sir.
Yeah. Pranshu, if you can check if there are any technical glitches with sir's video and audio.
Ma'am, I am facing a technical glitch. Please give me 1 minute.
Sure, Pranshu. Sir, just be with us for a couple of minutes. I'm sure he'll be able to fix it. And that is, this is one of the